We right? Okay. Terrific. Okay, what do we got? 7 o'clock on the dot. That's good. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Alpine Shire Council meeting this evening. We'll get proceedings underway. If you could just turn your mobile phone devices and things onto silent, please, that would be great. Item 1, recording.
All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however audio from the entire room is captured. By speaking during question time or at any time during the meeting, you consent to your voice and any comments you make being recorded. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is of course to hold us more accountable and improve transparency of council decision making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available.
Thank you. Item 2, if we could stand for the acknowledgement of traditional custodians.
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. Item 3, confirmation of minutes. Ordinary council meeting on the 7th of August 2018. Mover and a seconder, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Apologies. Item 4. Councillor Nicholas is unable to attend tonight, so she is an apology has some personal matters to deal with, and we hope that all goes well for her. Item 5, obituaries and congratulations. From my right, Councillor Forsyth.
Not tonight.
Councillor Napstein.
Congratulations on the Trafford was excellent and a very moving and touching tribute to a local VC winner. So I thought I'd just mention that.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've got an obituary for Alex Thompson, one of our local residents, passed away just recently. Father of Heather Thompson and grandfather of Bryce Carnes. Wish him all the best, the family.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just congratulations to the Upper Kiewa Valley on a fantastic international event last weekend. It was sandwiched between 2 weekends of snowy, rainy, wet weather, and we had a weekend in between where it was very sunny. So they were very fortunate with more than over 15,000 people there, and so well done to everyone involved.
And just a question on notice, Councillor Keeble, was your time any better this year than last year?
I don't think it was.
I'd have to work on that one.
I think I was slower. Yep.
Yep. Councillor Roper.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I've got
another one.
Congratulations, if I may.
Certainly.
Just a congratulations to she's having twins. Her name's Daisy Pearce, and that's all I can say.
Congratulations, Grandad. Hey. No, just the extended Pearce family, of course. And just following on from Councillor Napstein's one, I had the honour to attend the Bright RSL in relation to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day, and that was a wonderful ceremony. Thank you, Kevin, to you and your crew at the Bright RSL. It was a very fitting service. Item 6, declaration by councillors of conflict of interest. No. Nil. Thank you. Item 7, public questions on the agenda. I have one question on notice from Mr. Black, who is present tonight. I acknowledge Mr. Black's presence in relation to the Bright car parking plan. I'll just read the plan. Was commissioned partly in response to issues raised by the Bright RSL sub-branch concerning the waiving of car parking requirements for restaurants in Camp Street. It became clear that Council had been waiving these requirements for some time, e.g. Bright Brewery, thus putting a serious strain on street parking in the Bright CBD. The car parking plan proposal for Council's approval tonight is merely a tinkering around the edges of the existing arrangements and falls far short of the strategic car parking plan that is necessary to cope with increasing demands in the future. The questions, and there are 3 questions. Does Council have any intention to look at the issue of parking requirements for new developments, or will it continue to waive these requirements until the situation becomes untenable and then apply another quick fix? Question 2. When will Council decide that band-aid fixes such as this plan are inadequate and commission a proper car parking planning scheme that addresses the issues that Bright will face beyond the cosmetic changes that might be achieved over the next 6 years? And question 3. In the meantime, will Council continue to provide the current free ride for developers without the imposition of parking levies or other means of funding alternative off-street parking? Mr. Kevin Black. We have a response for you, Mr. Black, from our Director Assets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kevin. So, response to question 1. So, Council will continue to assess requests from developers to reduce car parking requirements in accordance with the requirements detailed in Clause 52 of the Alpine Planning Scheme. Parking dispensation is intended to balance requirements for providing parking against economic development within the CBD to maintain active street frontages. A key principle of parking demand management is that we don't design for peak parking demand, and therefore we accept that there will be times when the demand will exceed supply in localised areas. It would be an inefficient use of public and private resources to design for peak periods, as well as potentially resulting in poor urban design outcomes with a CBD dominated by poorly utilised car parking. Answer to question 2. Council notes that outside of peak periods, car parking occupancy in Bright is low, and there is significant parking currently available within easy walking distance of the town centre. The measures outlined in this plan will result in the following: the creation of an increase in the number of disabled parking bays and designated long vehicle parking bays, improved directional signage to off-street car parking, and increased short-term parking in the CBD, improving the turnover of parking spaces. Response to question 3. Council will continue to assess requests from developers to reduce car parking requirements in accordance with the requirements detailed in the Alpine Planning Scheme. Council does not consider that the implementation of a planning scheme amendment in order to impose parking levies on developers is warranted at this stage.
Thank you. You have your answers, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I still think they're short-term answers to long-term problems. And yes, certainly we know and we acknowledge that the parking is adequate during non-peak demand periods, but the fact is that the peak demand periods are becoming more and more and closer together, and this particular study, I believe, was undertaken by people who really don't have an understanding of the demands on Bright's car parking in peak periods. Whether it's the Christmas Hot Rod Run or the Brighter Days Festival or whatever, or the markets, these things will continue and will continue to be developed further I mean, we've got a number of events coming up over the next 3 or 4 months, which will put a big strain on the town's parking, and that's only in the next 3 or 4 months. What happens in 5 years' time? Do we have any sort of long-term consideration for what should happen? That's the issue that I have, particularly with the existing plan.
Thank you, Mr. Black, and I'm sure council and council staff will be monitoring the situation, and I know councillors have already had some discussion in relation to how we best monitor and police, and I don't like to use that word police parking, however, but it is a term that we have into the future. We live in a valley floor. We've only got so much land. We don't need to have it all filled with cars. As you would understand, we don't want to live in a car park. But and also, I think we with the Alpine Events Park there, I think we might find that there'll be more utilisation of that area, which will take some of that parking out of our town and into where those events are being held.
Yep.
So it's a bigger picture. It's not just creating more car park, as you would well understand. There's many hand in glove solutions for this problem in Bright.
Thank you. If I can just say, tongue-in-cheek, I had a suggestion made to me the other day that we should put all the parking in Paul Punker, and I don't think that would be accepted.
A commercial opportunity there, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further questions from the floor, please? Yes, sir, Mr. Dyer.
My name's Ray Dyer and I reside at 167 Selses Lane, Ovens. The question I'm addressing to should be addressed to the CEO, but he hasn't had the common courtesy to address or meet with me for over 9 months now. But I had a bike...
Righto, thank you, sir. I think we have an answer to that. Some correspondence was sent to you in relation to a bicycle. There's been no reply to that.
That correspondence was sent to me and I will have my say on it, because, as I said to you at a previous meeting, that the Victoria Police, Myrtleford Police, said that they didn't give permission to the Shire to take that bike, and the Ranger said that he did. And your response to that... No, Mr Mayor, I'm talking, not you.
I beg your pardon?
I am talking, not you. Do not
Mr. Dyer, take a seat, thank you. This is my meeting.
Do not point your finger at me.
This is my meeting, sir. Take a seat.
You not overspeak me while I'm talking.
Take a seat or leave this premises.
I haven't finished my question.
Take a seat or leave this premises. You are disrupting this public meeting, sir, and I will have an authorised officer... No, you're pointing at me now. That's rude. I will have an authorised officer issue the appropriate paperwork to you.
You will you?
I will. Your choice, sir.
I will have a second question. Is that all right?
No. I will not have this type of behaviour in this council,
this type of behaviour when you speak over me.
Good night, sir.
I will go, Mr Mayor, and there'll be a letter into the local paper about your services.
Thank you. I see it written on your car every week. And have to put up with it. Not in my council meeting. Good night, sir.
There is a way to...
Good night, sir.
Without talking over people.
Good night, sir.
Good night. I haven't finished.
Thank you. Any further questions? I don't mean to embarrass anybody in the chamber. I can only take enough of that.
Well handled, Ron.
Oh, Councillor. Well, I thought you were going to ask me a question, Councillor Epstein. Yeah. You could do it from here if you like. Item 8, presentation of reports by officers. 8.1 Chief Executive Mr Bird, contracts approved by the CEO.
It's recommended that the contracts approved by the CEO be noted.
Oh, very good.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble. Councillor Forsyth. Any discussion?
Good to see that the Mount Beauty Pool will be getting some upgrades to the toddlers area. Father of 5 children have used that area over the last 15 years. It'd be good to see the upgrades. I'm sure the town is looking forward to the upgrades, so well done.
Indeed. All those any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Dinner Plane Event Funding Program, item 8.2.1, Mr Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to the allocation of financial sponsorship to events at Dinner Plane for the 2018-19 financial year. Council allocated $50,000 in the 2018-19 budget to assist with the delivery of events in Dinner Plane, tourism, particularly during the green season. The recommendation for funding is to support a mixture of event types spread over the year. These include existing successful events and emerging events designed to attract visitation by targeting key school holiday and public holiday periods. An event funding panel was comprising Dinner Plane residents and business owners met to discuss the recommendations and the proposed allocation of funding, and they support the recommendations as outlined in this report. Attracting event organisers to Dinner Plane is challenging, but ongoing event activity is critical for Dinner Plane's economy. Some events identified for funding have been proposed by Alpine Shire Council as a means of supporting the Dinner Plane economy. All events proposed by Alpine Shire Council. The $35,500 amount recommended to be provided to events is to assist event organisers with their event delivery. The additional $4,000 amount recommended for promotion of events will be promotion that will be coordinated by Council, and particularly for those events being delivered by Council. Focal Promotions was contracted by Council to deliver the Geebung Polo event for a 5-year period, with the last year of the contract being in the delivery of the 2018 event. Focal Promotions did not apply for funding to continue with the delivery of this event in 2019. Community consultation is underway to seek feedback to assist in shaping plans for this event into the future.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble. Thank you. Seconded. Pearce. Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
It's great to see these annual events happening up at Dinner Plane and the support for those. I guess the Geebung Polo is one that looks like we may miss this next 12 months due to the current people running the show not continuing that. I know that the local community and the area do enjoy that particular event. It does draw a lot of people, so hopefully there'll be someone in the future that will pick that up if they don't.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
No, I concur with Councillor Keeble and wish all the best for the events for Dinner Plane.
Mr Jeremy, I think you said 35,000 in your little spiel there. It's actually 33,000. 33.5. Yep, correct.
I just note that Councillor Napstein has left the meeting. Chamber. 7:20.
Sorry, Councillor Roper. And Mr Jeremy. So 33.5 plus 4,000. Is that correct? So 37,500.
That's correct, yes. 3,500 is the funding that would be provided to the event organisers. 4,000 is for promotions to be carried out by Council. That leaves a balance of $12,500.
Oh, sorry.
We tried to spread it out.
Oh, did you? Okay. My apologies.
That's all right. So is there further discussion on this matter? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? (8.2.2) Supply and delivery of emulsion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for the supply and delivery of bitumen emulsion to Alpine Shire Council. Alpine Shire Council uses approximately 100,000 litres of bitumen emulsion each year to maintain its sealed road and path network. A 3-year supply contract expired on the 21st of August 2018, and Council sought tenders for a new supply contract.
So move.
Councillor Pearce. Sorry, who's seconded? Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Pearce.
I think it's pretty straightforward. It's there before us. Nothing to say.
Councillor Forsyth.
I found this one a bit interesting because our price is published by Bitumen Importers Australia, so we really can't do much about it, but I believe that we've got the best deal that we possibly can. So, yeah, that's fine.
If I could just provide a clarification, so the price of bitumen is, the movements in the price of bitumen is dictated by Bitumen Importers Australia. The price is defined by an equation that's agreed with Downer.
Right.
So our price isn't published, it's just the movements in the price are dictated.
Sorry, I didn't mean that our price was published.
Yeah.
I just knew that.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Any further comment?
Yes. The black and sticky substance referred to as emulsion. I'm wondering if we're going to have a repeat performance with this emulsion as we had in Coolambuka several years ago, where the emulsion kept on coming back up through the... How do we guarantee that the quality of emulsion we have is the best quality of emulsion we can get?
I'd have to take that question on notice, Mr. Roper.
I'm just hoping we don't have any future emulsion problems.
Yep.
Sorry, I was just asking a question there. The approximate annual cost of bitumen is 90,000 plus GST, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.2.3, provision of public toilets and amenities in Toowoomba South.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Jeremy?
The purpose of this report is to provide a progress update on the investigation into the development of new public toilets and amenities in Toowoomba South. A petition was tabled in support of the provision of public toilets was tabled at the February 2018 Ordinary Council meeting. Petition visitors states, we the undersigned, being residents of the Upper Kiewa Valley, visitors and general members of the public, call on the Alpine Shire Council to urgently provide amenities including public toilets, parking and picnic area in the town business centre of Toowoomba South, being the section of Kiewa Valley Highway from Simmons Creek Road to Vales Road. A report was tabled at the March 2018 Ordinary Council meeting responding to this petition, and the recommendations carried in this report were that Council continues to investigate the options to develop new public toilets in Toowoomba South, acknowledging the limited options which are available, and provides a progress update at the September 2018 Ordinary Council meeting. So this report is the progress update that was promised back in the March Council meeting. So in the intervening period, Council in order to negotiate access to suitable land for development, and we've had 3 promising leads over that period which have been progressed. One of these leads appeared particularly promising but has subsequently been closed down after the landholders withdrew their support. One lead relies on the support of Vic Roads, and we're still awaiting Vic Roads' confirmation that their in principle support for that proposal and their list of development conditions. And the third lead results from a recent approach to Council by a potential investor. Discussions in relation to this third lead are at a very early stage. However, it was promising that we were approached by a potential investor rather than the other way around. So that looks like quite a promising lead to continuing to investigate. And there's a fourth lead, which is the leasing of a parcel of land on one of the existing businesses. So that's something that we're also in discussion about as well. So that's a very recent development.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble.
Second.
Councillor Roper. Councillor Keeble.
It's really important that this area in Toowoomba South does receive some public toilet facilities, and it's good to see that we've started making progress towards that avenue, and these recommendations mean that we'll continue down that path until we can find a solution.
Councillor Roper.
Well, Tony summed it up quite eloquently, so I don't need to say anything.
Good. Any further comment? Yes, very good. Very good. No further comment. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.2.4, McNamara Reserve Netball and Tennis Facilities.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for the construction of the McNamara Reserve Netball and Tennis Facilities. The work includes demolition of the existing amenities block and construction of upgrade. In August 2016, Council sought funding from Sport and Recreation Victoria to develop a new multi-sports facility to replace the existing amenities building at McNamara Reserve. This project was in response to a need identified by key stakeholders for an upgraded Disability Discrimination Act compliant and female-friendly amenities building. Tender documents were downloaded by 25 prospective tenderers and 2 tender submissions were received. Following the initial assessment of offers, only one of the tenders was shortlisted to take part in further evaluation. The tenderer was invited to clarify aspects of their tender, provide further detail on the proposed programme, including their ability to meet the required timeframes. Following the tender interview, it was determined that the tender from Barton Street Developments best met the selection recommended will result in a significant cost overrun against the project budget. The key factors contributing to this cost overrun are as follows. A number of significant items were omitted from the cost estimate which was developed during the concept design phase, and this cost estimate with the omissions was then used to establish the overall project budget and to seek external grant funding. Secondly, market rates achieved through the tender process are significantly higher in a number of areas than was assumed at the concept design stage. And thirdly, a low level of contingency was applied to the concept design cost estimate, which wasn't reflective of the level of uncertainty that remained in the project at this stage. It is unknown whether retendering the construction scope will result in a more competitive outcome. However, it missed a 12-month delay in the delivery of the project. The total project budget is $500,000, comprising $100,000 of grant funding from Sport and Recreation Victoria, with the balance of $400,000 being funded by Council. Based on the recommended contract award price of $548,628, the forecast completion cost of the project is $736,135, which represents a forecast cost overrun of $236,135 against the approved project budget.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble.
Seconded.
Councillor Roper. Councillor Keeble.
You know, we put tenders out and we get tenders back, and sometimes we make decisions on whether it meets our budgets or not, and this one doesn't, as has been outlined. I think, though, we need to continue with this project, and I thank Will and his team for trying to find ways of making efficiencies in this particular tender with the buildings, and I think at the end the McNamara Reserve Netball and Tennis area, people there will enjoy their new facilities, if it so gets voted in. Thank you.
Councillor Roper.
Sport, increasing the community's fitness and also increasing its health and well-being. This facility is also is accessible for disabled bodies as well. So it's a bit unfair to say that it is actually a cost overrun when we've actually neglected to do some work ourselves. Realistically, in the pre-process of scoping this up. So I'm happy to support this project, because the sooner we get it built, the better off we'll be.
Thank you. Further comment, Councillor Forsyth?
Has said, and I think one of the take-home messages from this is that hopefully there's now a process in place where scoping of these things is actually a little bit more rigid. And that's one of the things I think on council we really do need to know. And I think, as it was pointed out earlier, you only ended up with one valid tenderer, mainly because of the size of the job. I mean, that tenderer could have probably built a house somewhere down the street and made more profit than he could have from doing something for us at council.
So just to clarify, there were two conforming tenders?
Yeah. But we ended up with only the other one.
Significantly higher than the other.
Okay. Yeah. No, I did get that point. Thank you.
Further comment?
Just a quick one. I was there with the Mayor when we went down to see the new lights. I've been there to see the development of the stadium at Myrtleford there, and then this is just a nice completion of works done in the past, and it's great for Myrtleford, great for Alpine Shire, and especially good this one for the girls playing out on the courts.
Thank you. Any further comment? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I'll just add on that I'm sure the young ladies that have had to put up with some pretty ordinary facilities there for many years will be most grateful for something better, and they certainly deserve that facility. Item 8.2.5, the Bright car parking plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report relates to the adoption of the Bright car parking plan by Council. In response to feedback from members of the community about increased demand being placed on existing car parking, Council committed to develop a car parking plan for operation in October 2017, followed by data collection in January and March 2018. The draft car parking plan was released for community consultation in June 2018. All submissions to the draft plan have now been considered and amendments made to the draft plan where practicable and aligned with the objectives of the plan. The plan was finalised in August 2018. Following adoption, discrete projects identified in the plan will be added to Council's project pipeline for delivery within the timeframes identified in this plan. The estimated cost to deliver all the projects identified in the plan is around $1.3 million. However, adoption of the plan has no implications for the 2018-19 budget or resourcing. As noted earlier, the discrete projects will future budgets.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble. Councillor Knapstein. Councillor Keeble.
The Bright car parking plan, there's been a lot of discussions about this plan, at least the last 12 months or so, a couple of years. So I think it's been out in the public arena for a while, the discussion. There's been newspaper articles, there's been public consultations, there's been meetings. We've heard residents at our Shire meetings. I know Mr. Black's in the gallery and he's mentioned this on a few times with some questions. So I think we've had a good conversation overall over the last few years, and the work they've done in putting this together. A plan like this is maybe not going to support everyone's wishes. Acknowledge that. It's a plan that we have though. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Knapstein.
I'd like to follow up with what Councillor Keeble was saying. We have sort of looked at the car parking in Bright really extensively, and my observations are that we do have plenty of car parking, certainly not enough for the peak times, but we cannot plan for the peak times all the time. And if we better utilise the car parks that we did have, and if we manage to sort of find that we're not using our available car parking effectively, but I endorse this plan.
Thank you. Further comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to concur with my dear colleague, Councillor Knapstein, and Councillor Keeble on the matter, and no, it's a challenge and it's a continual battle.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Keeble, reply? None. Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.3.1, the long-term lease for the management and operation of the Myrtleford Holiday Park. Director Corporate, Ms Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to the recommendation for Council to enter into the long-term lease with Myrtleford Creekside Caravan Park Party Limited, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Sustainable Park Solutions Party Limited, for the management and operation of the Myrtleford Holiday Park. Alpine Shire Council is the Committee of Management for the Myrtleford Holiday Park, and the park is currently being operated by Alpine Shire Council. Tenders were invited for the long-term lease of the park in September 2017. This process resulted in one conforming submission, which was invitation to tender process was conducted in January and February of this year, 2018. And the recommendation to proceed with Sustainable Park Solutions Party Limited was adopted by Council at the April 2018 Ordinary Council meeting. It is a requirement under Section 190 of the Local Government Act that Council advertise a public notice inviting submissions for the lease under a Section 223 process. A public notice was advertised on the 11th of April 2018, and the closing date for submissions was the 10th of May. No submissions to this was received.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble. Have a seconder, please.
Councils and caravan parks. We've had a few, and we've had some on leases, and we've sold some. And it's really good to see that the caravan park in Myrtleford will continue with this lease, a good strong lease for the town and for the Alpine Shire. So thanks for getting the lease up and running. There's a lot of work that goes behind those leasing documents, and I think I could say it's a win-win for everyone on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
You took the words out of my mouth. It's a win-win, I think. It's a win for council because we've not offloaded something, but we've actually freed up some people that were looking to time this particular park. I note in particular that capital works over the life of the lease will be nearly 1.3 million, which will be supplied by the lessor. I think it is a win-win. Yeah, let's just move on from that, and it's good to see this caravan park in the middle of town, and I can just see it getting busier and busier, and especially now that we're upgrading the park opposite and the connectivity, I think, as well. So it's good.
Thank you. Any further comment? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. (8.3.2) Lease of Kabungra Court, Harrietville.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend the Council into a short-term lease of Kabungra Court Reserve, Harrietville, identified as Reserve Lot 1 on LP 132168.
So moved.
Seconded. Councillor Keeble, Councillor Roper. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is one of these anomalies that, you know, there's some land, a small parcel of land that years ago when it was all divided was in, you know, had some good intention right next to it for them to use and maintain to the best of their ability.
Yeah, Councillor Roper.
Councillor Keeble said all that's required.
Thank you.
On your cage.
Any further comment? No. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.3.3, a planning application in 5 Switchback Road, Margigonga. Ms Cook, you have a comment in relation?
It's been withdrawn. An amended application for that site has been received, so it will now be assessed.
Thank you. Item 8.3.4, planning application, re 1 Bakers Gully Road, Bright.
This report relates to the proposal, Mr Mayor, of a 6-lot subdivision and removal of native vegetation. It is recommended that a notice of refusal be issued for the 6-lot subdivision removal of native vegetation. The proposal seeks to subdivide a 2.879 hectare property into 6 lots. Lots 1 to 5 range 200 metres squared, while lot 6 is proposed to be 1.036 hectares in size and is located over the steeper area of the site and will contain the majority of the existing vegetated area. The application was advertised in accordance with Section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, and 3 objections were received. It should be noted that the application originally took the form of a 10-lot subdivision. This initial notification saw the receipt of 3 objections. However, the application was amended to 6-lot proposal, which then saw a notification for a second time, and saw the withdrawal of 1 existing submission and the addition of a 3rd submission from Hancock Victoria Plantation, HVP. The application is not for the following reasons. It is inconsistent with the bushfire planning policy that directs that priority be given to the protection of human life. It directs that population growth would occur in low-risk locations, and it requires the risk to human life to be reduced to an acceptable level. Both the Country Fire Authority and Council consider that, given the amount and extent of the surrounding vegetation, bushfires in the broader landscape are likely to be of a large scale, difficult to extinguish and spread rapidly, and likely to impact the site with significant intensity. The site is likely to be subjected to mass ignition from embers, leading to firestorm conditions that will create an area of fire that potentially exposes the development to high levels of radiant heat and direct flame contact. And the application creates a landscape that gives rise to a very high bushfire risk, which is further compounded to access to an area of relative safety, being Bright Township, where the access to Bright Township is also relatively poor. The application has also been unable to satisfactorily demonstrate the ability to secure acceptable vegetation offsets that will be required for the proposed vegetation impacts as directed by planning policy and the native vegetation provisions of the Alpine Planning Scheme. Having considered the relevant provisions of the Alpine Planning Scheme, it's recommended that a notice of refusal be issued for the proposed 6-lot subdivision and removal of native vegetation.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble.
Seconded.
Councillor Roper. Anticipate there may be some discussion in relation to this matter, so each of you will certainly have a turn, and more than I would normally allow, because it is an important subject that needs good debate. So just bear with me if you don't mind. Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We get planning approvals every now and then up on this bench. Planning applications every now and then up on the bench here. And they come up here when there has been people that have objected to the planning application. They're not always straightforward to give an answer to, and this is one of those ones. It's not straightforward. In some areas it is, for myself, and I know we might hear from other people in a minute, from other councillors. I'm going to leave it at that at the moment.
Okay. Councillor Roper.
Yes, I'll turn the bloody button on. This is an interesting one. Can we got a picture of the site again, up please, from that? Ms. Cook. The could you just go the one that's out further than that, that shows the other block alongside.
I'm sorry, that's not it.
Next page.
Yeah, keep going. We're almost there. Anyway, righto. Okay. Righto. So this is realistically a landlocked site on Bakers Gully Road that's south and, well, it's mainly south of Bright, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep. And there's, you can see there from the drawing that Faulkner Rise, it's a rather large subdivision there that's going to all be housed. I think there's 9 blocks, isn't there? 9 houses there. 9. And then we've got, and yeah, we're in Faulkner Rise there. So I think it was called, the road's called Faulkner Rise off Bakers Gully. And then the next block, we're talking about putting 6 on. So this is a block of land with the creek on one side and Hancock's Plantation on the other. That can, according to the CFA, support 1 dwelling. But because of the change in the bushfire management overlay. So now, with the change in the bushfire management overlay, this block can only support 1, and the other block at Faulkner Rise probably wouldn't support the 9 that are currently there. So we're getting planning advice from the CFA that it shouldn't go ahead, and there's strong evidence that plantations, as they do in normal open bushland, because it's a monoculture, there's no undergrowth, the canopy grows up quickly, and it's normally very dark and moist and cool underneath once the plantation is established. So this is a vexing one, and I'm looking forward to seeing what my fellow councillors think of this.
Thank you, Councillor Roper. Further comment?
I just wondered, are we commenting before we vote, or I just wondered what the
debate
process is here. So we come to sort of vote mode here. We can speak as if we're voting.
No, you can say whatever you like, Councillor Pearce. So just if you wait your turn, Councillor.
I wasn't 100% sure of your remarks regarding the pine plantations. I know that assets aren't directed into pine plantations if they are on fire. Once they do catch, there's volatile oils and really extremely high temperatures and the fire can catch. And I believe with this application there was a direction about the easy exit down Bakers Gully Road, but that's making assumptions on points of ignition and all of that. And having regard to the recommendation by CFA, I sort of see the reasoning behind what they have recommended that we do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I look at that map there and we see the subdivision below it, at a lower height, and then the other side of them trees there, it continues on with development all the way down to town. I don't think this application is a greater threat to fire than the block next door, nor do I think it's a greater threat with fire to 85% of the Shire. Those figures could be adjustable. These days we're better trained in evacuation prior to the fire's arrival. We're gone, especially in a case like this, you'd be gone in no time before the fire even got in. That provide access. It's all designated residential, is it not? All the houses prior back down the hill, so everything's in place for this type of building. So I can't do anything but help support this application.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
For those watching and listening, we're a lot of talking heads tonight on this one. The north of this proposed subdivision, I really can't see what the difference is between the two sites. You have an extra 150 metres of roadway if you do have to get out in a hurry, but it is down the same road. The people in Fawkner Rise have got the same problem. You've got 9 blocks in there. When I look at the way that this block is to be designed, it's not in this report, I'll be honest with you. The egress is affected in possibly 2 or 3 different ways. It'll still go down Bakers Gully Road though. The other thing about this is they talk about the native vegetation. Now when you look at the size of this block, the native vegetation is all in the left-hand half. Now, in order to offset, in order to get the 6 blocks, the 6 blocks only go about 2/3 of the way down that block to the left. The native vegetation is all going to be left there. If I had my way, I'd probably transplant a whole lot of deciduous trees that don't burn, but I can't do that. Yeah, look, it is interesting. It's interesting to note that one of the proponents, or the person who is planning this, was actually an ex-town planner as well. So, and they're proposing the subdivision. I'll wait for the vote.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think we've all had a good say on that. For me, if I go back to my opening remarks, we look at the changes, we look at the map and we go, okay, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense and it doesn't make sense. But also what we can't see is north of the map is farming land, straight through residential up Bakers Gully. It's residential farming zone and then residential and then HVP land. So it's not a straight from residential to residential. There is a break in there. For me, it's about has been a change in the BMO over this time since Fawkner Rise was allowed to go ahead. And for me, that will be what I base my judgment on.
Thank you. I think we can take this to the vote now. We have the recommendation. Could I just come back up to that recommendation, please, Ms. Cook? Just so councillors are clear, the recommendation is not to approve this subdivision. So we'll take it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? All those against? 2. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors.
Could I call a division, please, Mr Mayor?
Yes.
Hey,
Staff right?
give me note.
So once again, all those in favour? Those against? Councillor Pearce and Councillor Forsyth.
There's one reason I called too. Sometimes people do change their vote after this division's called.
Item 8.3.5, the Audit Committee meeting, July 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Right. Councillor Roper, Councillor Pearce. Any
No comment
discussion?
required.
Favour? Carried. Please.
Die quietly, Pearce. Is it Asian flu you've got?
Item 8.3.6, financial statements and performance statement, approval in principle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the draft financial statements and performance statement for the year ended 30 June 2018 for review and approval in principle. Once approved...
Councillor Pearce. Any discussion?
Straightforward. It's actually on the board.
Councillor Roper? No.
Oh, good luck, councillors Napstein and Nicholas, certifying the financial statements.
Here.
All those in favour? It's carried. Where's that special? Yeah. Item 9, Assembly of Councillors.
I moved. Question on this one, please. What happened
Yep.
to the 28th of August?
Sorry?
What happened to the 28th of August?
Yeah, it's Mr. Seale.
It's a good question, Councillor Forsyth. The practice we have here at Council is that the briefing session preceding the council meeting goes on the subsequent council meeting, and hence you'll see the 24th of July
Thank you.
on there. A question I've asked before.
That's just a clarification. Thank you. Is it you, Councillor Keeble? Yes. And Councillor Pearce, did you second that?
No.
No?
Nobody did?
No. Councillor Napstein, thank you. Any discussion? I think that point's been clarified. All those in favour? Carried. Item 10, general business. From my right,
Not tonight, thanks.
Councillor Napstein. No. Councillor Pearce.
You're not tonight, Mayor.
Councillor Keeble.
And we've had a really long, busy winter, I think, in our shire. And there's been more tourist visits in our alpine regions than ever before. And I just would want to thank all those hard-working people out there that have kept the wheels going over a very cold, wet winter for our area when almost the rest of Australia is in a drought. When we look at that. So well done to everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Roper.
My general business pertains around the comings and goings of the Mount Beauty Airport, which I witnessed Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, and plenty of other light aircraft enjoying the airstrip at Mount Beauty, so much so that I was... it is noticeably more operation than I have noticed in the past. So we are seeing, and I think that's highlighted by the demand for the hangars we saw at our previous meeting, whether all those were subscribed. And I am looking forward to the opportunity to extend the runway of Mount Beauty and to encourage further flight or use of that facility. And even this afternoon around lunchtime, I noticed the gliders, and there was even a couple of paragliders in the sky as well too. I know they don't use the winch; they jump off whatever's around about. But yeah, so it's another, I suppose, string to realistically. You know, we were talking about car parking before. If everyone turns up in an aeroplane, we might block the skies up a bit, Kevin. We might have to send some over to Paul Punker to use a strip over here. I'm not sure, but perhaps build a strip over down at Myrtleford.
Perhaps Mount Beauty could have an Uber flight area.
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
Councillor Roper has prompted me to come back into general business. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Roper on his new love of aviation and the like to the Mount Beauty Airport, and I think that's good. And just today I was out at the Paul Punker airstrip, which we've been behind as well, the Alpine Shire, and noticed the new hangars out there and the new track, and I was just thinking of a question to Will about how the drainage problem was going at the strip. Paul Punker. Well done, Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. So there's two issues that have been flagged at the Paul Punker Airfield. One's with the roughness of the runway, and we have a plan to do some top dressing as we head into spring, which will address that issue. The other issue, which is the one that you referred to, is the drainage issue, and we're commissioning an engineer to go out and provide issue. So we did some drainage works last year, which have been partially successful, but they haven't entirely solved the problem. So yeah, we're working on it and we're making progress.
Thank you, Director of Assets.
Councillor Knapstein.
I do have a comment to make regarding question time, and I do understand what Ray's second question was going to be about, and again it was about toilets. And Councillor Keeble mentioned the visitation that we've had, and my suggestion was going to be to Mr Dyer that instead of inspecting the toilets when he thinks they've just been done, I think he should visit them before, so that he can see what it is the contractors do and the hard work they put in possibly can, given some of the times that they've been left in such an appalling state. I do check them from time to time, only because I've been prompted by his concerns. I refuse to visit toilets with him because I think it's a bad sign. It doesn't look good. And I do call in occasionally to the men's, the ladies, the disabled, the unisex. So if you do see me wandering around and I'm going into toilets inappropriately, that is what I'm doing.
New portfolio for Councillor Knapstein. Thank you. The visitation to Mount Buffalo is increased to 214,000 per year, which is an incredible amount, and so that's exponentially at least 5% each year going up there. So the amount of visitation to our shire is increasing in so many other different ways. They're coming up there for the outdoor activities. They're going over to Mount Beauty to the airfield over there, using those facilities. They're using our facilities here in Bright. They're bringing their motor cars. We do live in a very, very special part of the world up here, and I think we should be very thankful to be where we are. Oh yes, we'll have a brighter future. We'll be well.
I have one more, Mr Mayor.
Oh, one more. Yes, go.
I have one more. There's an interesting article in the papers this week about openness and integrity in local councils in Victoria. I'm not sure if people read the article. You will see. It's in the Age. Without a mention the Age, we just did. You will see, if you haven't seen it, there's a table of all the and we are in regards to closed sessions, right down the very bottom.
Third.
Third, there were two with a 0 and we were with 0.039. Some councils are up over 20 to 30, 40%. many in the 15 to 20% range. So it's just good to know that, 99.9% of our decisions are made here in front of the public, in front of the screen, and we're transparent with that. So congratulations.
And we had none. That was the year before. We had none last year. No closed sessions last year. If you have read the agenda, we are about to go into a closed session.
Could we explain that it's not always, it's some other reasons why we have to go into closed sessions?
Yeah.
Not that we want to be sneaky.
No, it's not what we want to be sneaky, but certain interests sometimes we have to protect. Item 11, motions for which notice has previously been given. They were nil. Item 12, reception and recording of petitions. Item 13, documents for sealing. Forsyth and Councillor Knapstein. Thank you. Yeah. All those in favour? Yep. That's you, Councillor Roper. Yep. Thank you. Carried. Item 14 is the confidential report. So the meeting is not actually closed, but it is a confidential matter. So can I just have a mover and a seconder, please, for the recommendation in 14 that in accordance with the provision of section 89(2)(e) of the Local Government Act 1989, Councillor Pearce and Councillor Knapstein, thank you. Council will move into this item for a short time, I would think. So if I could politely request the members of the public to leave the gallery and certainly welcome back in here for the closing of the meeting wish. So thank you very much. And if I could notify those people who are viewing on YouTube that we will not be recommencing that YouTube production at the conclusion of this confidential matter. And we move into the time now of 8:08 p.m. and if I could just ask that all video recordings be ceased.